The Dust Bowl era, which began in the 1930s, was a time of great struggle for many families across America, especially in the Great Plains. The land that had once been fertile and thriving was reduced to parched earth, cracked and barren from years of drought. The skies often filled with dark, swirling dust storms that carried away precious topsoil and transformed vibrant communities into ghost towns. People worked tirelessly to grow crops, but the relentless dry winds and lack of rain left them with little more than despair. As farmers faced dwindling harvests, they found themselves caught between mounting debts and an uncertain future. Many families had to leave their homes in search of better opportunities elsewhere, joining the long lines of migrants traveling towards California. Schools closed or consolidated due to the lack of students, and communities weakened under the strain of economic difficulties. In this harsh environment, survival became paramount. Families relied on each other for support, sharing whatever little they had. Hope flickered like a candle in the wind. It was within this backdrop of struggle that our story unfolds, a tale marked by sacrifice and compassion amid overwhelming hardship. The resilience shown by those living through these challenges would soon be tested even further, as a newfound secret threatened to change everything for one small town. In the heart of this struggling town was Mrs. Evelyn Harper, a devoted teacher known for her boundless compassion and unwavering dedication to her students. Every day, despite the dust-laden air and the uncertainty surrounding her community, she opened her classroom door with a warm smile. Mrs. Harper believed that education was the key to a brighter future, and she worked tirelessly to inspire hope in her young pupils. Her small, one-room schoolhouse was a sanctuary amidst the chaos. The walls were adorned with colorful drawings and handmade crafts created by her students, each piece reflecting their dreams and aspirations. Mrs. Harper took the time to listen to her students' stories, understanding that many faced challenges beyond their years. She provided not only lessons in reading and math but also valuable life lessons about kindness and resilience. With the economy crumbling and families struggling to eat, Mrs. Harper often shared her own meager supplies with those in need. She would quietly slip extra sandwiches into backpacks or offer warm blankets during the cold nights when families had nowhere else to turn. Her heart ached for each child, especially when she noticed the sadness in their eyes that came with uncertainty. Little did she know, her caring spirit would soon play a crucial role in the life of a runaway orphan who would cross her path, seeking refuge from the harsh world outside. Meanwhile, a young boy named Timothy was racing away from a troubled past. At only 12 years old, he had faced more hardships than most people twice his age. Life at home had become unbearable. His father, once a hard-working farmer, had succumbed to despair, losing everything to the ravages of drought and desperation. The boy's family home, once filled with laughter, had turned into a place of anger and hopelessness. One starless night, after a particularly fierce argument, Timothy packed a small bag with some clothes and a few precious belongings, a tattered book of stories and a photograph of happier times. With a heavy heart but a burning desire for freedom, he slipped into the darkness and ran toward the distant lights of the town where he had heard whispers of safety and kindness. As he trekked through the dust-laden fields, fears of being caught tugged at his mind. Yet, hope drove him on. He had heard about Mrs. Evelyn Harper and her compassionate ways, her ability to turn a classroom into a refuge. Arriving in the small town at dawn, Timothy felt uncertain but determined. As the sun peeked over the horizon, painting the sky golden, he took a deep breath and stepped forward into this new world, seeking not just shelter but a true sense of belonging in Mrs. Harper's nurturing embrace. As the sun rose higher, illuminating the town, Timothy found himself standing outside Mrs. Harper's schoolhouse, heart pounding with anxiety and hope. He hesitated for a moment before stepping inside, where he was greeted by the warm glow of the classroom and the familiar smell of chalk and paper. Mrs. Harper looked up, her eyes widening in surprise as she recognized the frightened boy standing before her. Timothy shared his story quietly, recounting his escape and the unbearable life he had fled. Mrs. Harper listened intently, her heart aching for him. As he spoke about his dreams of safety and belonging, she felt a deep sense of responsibility wash over her. The world outside was harsh, and she couldn't imagine leaving Timothy to face it alone. With a determined spirit, she made a life-changing decision: she would hide Timothy from those who might seek to take him away. She believed every child deserved a chance at a better life, especially one so brave to flee such despair. A plan began to form in her mind, one that involved kindness and secrecy. She would find ways to keep him safe within her classroom, presenting him as a student while trusting her instincts to shield him from danger. Mrs. Harper swore to protect Timothy as best she could, understanding that love and courage could carve out a sanctuary even amid the swirling dust storms of their lives. Word of a new boy in town began to spread, whispered among neighbors like a gust of wind that carried both truth and speculation. Some curious townsfolk were intrigued by Timothy's unexpected arrival, while others were quick to jump to conclusions, fueled by mistrust and fear. "Who is this child?" they would ask one another. "Where did he come from?" The questions hung heavy in the air, creating an atmosphere thick with uncertainty. As rumors flew, the town elders convened, their brows furrowed with concern. They whispered anxiously about reputation and resources, worried that a runaway orphan might bring unwanted attention. In a community already struggling with its own burdens, the presence of this boy seemed like a threat rather than an opportunity for compassion. Some elders argued that the town could not afford to take in another mouth to feed, while others suggested a more drastic measure: selling Timothy to the mine as a way to relieve the community's financial strain, labeling it a poor tax. While Mrs. Harper was determined to shield Timothy from harm, tensions among the town elders grew as their discussions surrounding the runaway intensified. The pressure mounted as they prepared to confront the situation head-on. Decisions would soon be made that could alter lives forever, leaving Mrs. Harper caught in a web of loyalty towards her student and the growing fears of her community. In the dim light of the town hall, a group of elders gathered to discuss the growing concerns surrounding Timothy. Their faces, lined with worry and desperation, reflected the harsh realities of the Dust Bowl that had left many families struggling to survive. As they exchanged ideas, one elder spoke up, suggesting a drastic measure that sent a chill through the room: selling the boy to the nearby mine. "This is not just about one child," he argued, his voice deep and steady. "We are facing a crisis. Every day we hold on to a runaway orphan, we risk our reputation and resources. We can call it a poor tax, a way to support our community during these hard times." The others murmured in agreement, swayed by the logic of survival. They debated whether it would be better for Timothy to face this fate rather than live in uncertainty while drawing on the town's dwindling supplies. Some elders viewed this as a necessary sacrifice for the greater good, believing that a strong community could not afford to show weakness. As this sinister plan took shape, fear gripped Mrs. Harper's heart. She knew that selling Timothy was not only wrong but would also shatter the hope he had found in her care. With each passing moment, she felt the weight of her decision grow heavier, knowing she had to act quickly to protect him from being seen as a mere solution to their problems. As Mrs. Harper sat at her desk, the weight of the town elders' proposal pressed down on her like the thick dust clouds outside. She had always believed in protecting her students and providing them with a safe haven, but now she faced an impossible choice. Her heart ached for Timothy, who had already endured so much. He was not just another student to her, but a boy in need of shelter from a world that had turned its back on him. The thought of selling him to the mine felt like a betrayal, a dark solution to appease the town's fears and financial struggles. "How can they even consider this?" she whispered to herself, feeling anger and sorrow swirl within her. Yet, as a teacher, she understood the harsh realities the community faced. Families were starving, and resources were dwindling. If Timothy remained, it could bring danger not just to him but to all her students. Mrs. Harper felt torn between her duty as an educator and her moral obligation to protect Timothy. Each day that passed brought more anxiety as she sensed the elders growing more resolute in their plan. She knew she had to act quickly, but how could she save him without putting everyone in jeopardy? As these thoughts raced through her mind, Mrs. Harper realized that courage sometimes meant standing up against not just the world outside but also the beliefs of the community she loved. As Mrs. Harper contemplated the dire situation, an idea began to take shape in her mind. She would devise a plan to help Timothy escape the town before the elders could act on their decision. Knowing that time was of the essence, she reached out to a few trusted allies in the community, friends who understood her plight and shared her compassion for the boy. First, she approached Mr. Thompson, the local grocery store owner, who had often seen Timothy hiding in the schoolyard but hadn't asked questions. "I need your help," she said urgently as they stood behind the shelves stacked with flour and sugar. "If anyone can get him supplies unnoticed, it's you." Mr. Thompson agreed to provide food and clothing, ensuring that Timothy would have what he needed for a journey away from the town. Next, Mrs. Harper enlisted the aid of Miss Clara, a kind-hearted seamstress who shared the same concern for the orphan's well-being. Together, they crafted a simple plan. On Friday evening after school, Timothy would leave under the guise of taking supplies to help families affected by the dust storms. Once he made his way out of town and reached the old barn at the edge of the fields, a place only a few knew about, he could hide until darkness fell. Mrs. Harper felt a surge of hope as she hung on to this plan, determined to guide Timothy toward safety while keeping him hidden from those who sought to exploit him. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the town, a palpable tension hung in the air. The townspeople gathered near the town hall, their voices rising as they debated Timothy's fate. The once thriving community was now split. Some believed that selling him to the mine was a necessary measure to ensure their survival, while others felt it was an act of cruelty that betrayed their very values. "How can we turn our backs on a child in need?" one mother pleaded, her voice trembling with emotion. "What kind of community are we if we choose to sacrifice him for our own comfort?" However, another elder countered, "We cannot afford to take in every lost soul. We have our families to feed. This is about survival." The crowd murmured in response, torn between compassion and fear. In that moment, Mrs. Harper stepped forward, her heart racing as she raised her hand for silence. "This boy deserves to be treated with kindness," she declared passionately. "We must show him that he is not alone. We can find another way." Her words hung in the air, igniting hope but also resentment among those who feared change. As eyes turned toward her, Mrs. Harper felt the weight of their expectations. It became clear that this confrontation wasn't just about Timothy, it was about the very soul of their community and what they stood for in this time of hardship. In the days that followed, Mrs. Harper's passionate plea resonated throughout the town, creating a wave of compassion among the townspeople. Many began to question their beliefs about survival and what it truly meant to be a community. With renewed support from her neighbors, they rallied together to help Timothy find a safe escape route. When Friday evening arrived, Timothy quietly slipped away from his makeshift hiding spot, his heart racing with a mix of fear and hope. As he approached the old barn where Mrs. Harper had arranged for him to meet her allies, he felt an overwhelming sense of freedom wash over him. The chance to start anew was within reach. As the townsfolk united, they worked quickly to gather supplies and money for Timothy's journey, showcasing their transformation from division to solidarity. With tears in her eyes, Mrs. Harper bid farewell to Timothy at dusk, reminding him that kindness would always triumph over fear. They locked eyes one last time, a shared understanding passing between them, that bravery can change a life. Finally, with hugs and quiet assurances from the supportive townsfolk, Timothy took his first steps toward freedom. He looked back at the flickering lights in the distance and felt hope blooming in his heart. Through bravery and compassion, both he and Mrs. Harper had not only saved each other but had also ignited a renewed sense of community in their small town, a legacy that would endure long after this difficult season had passed. As the dust settled on the horizon, Mrs. Harper and the townspeople reflected on the sacrifices made in the name of love and freedom. The journey they had taken together revealed profound truths about what it truly means to be part of a community. In their darkest moments, they discovered that standing up for one another required courage and selflessness. Mrs. Harper thought about how her decision to protect Timothy had called forth not just her own bravery but also awakened a spirit of compassion among her neighbors. Each person had risked something, comfort, resources, or even their reputation, for the sake of a child whose life hung in the balance. They learned that love often demands sacrifice, pushing individuals beyond their fears to embrace their shared humanity. Timothy's escape became a symbol of hope, reminding everyone that true freedom is not simply the absence of chains but the presence of kindness and support. As he took his first steps toward a brighter future, he carried with him the lessons learned from those who stood by him in his time of need. In this small town marked by hardship, they saw that nurturing each other's dreams meant recognizing the worth in every individual. The sacrifices they made for Timothy forged bonds that would uplift them all, proving that even in difficult times, love and compassion could prevail, lighting the way through life's darkest storms.